So I've decided I want to start climbing. More specifically, I want to start bouldering because I don't really like heights. But either way, the closest climbing gym to me is about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes away. So I'm building a wall in my backyard. The first thing I did once I got the wood home was attempt to paint it in order to seal it before the rain started for a few days, which only kinda worked. I was able to get one side of the sheets done and start the edges, but was unable to finish it. We do have a bit of a cover over our back porch though, and the wood was able to stay dry enough under there while it rained. I chose to use deck over as the paint since it's designed to be waterproof and adds a bit of texture or grip to the wood. And while I do appreciate the texture I added, it ended up being kind of a pain to use. These flat sheets were alright, but the 2x4s and later the back of the wall that had the framing already done were rather difficult and time consuming. The paint is so thick that it doesn't want to go into any of the joints or even minor imperfections in the wood. I bought 3 4x8 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood to build the wall and cut one of them in half in order to have a 2-foot kicker at the base of the wall. The main portion of the wall will end up being 10 feet tall by 8 feet wide and will be adjustable so that while I'm still new to this, I can have an almost vertical wall, and as I progress, I can add an angle. Having the wall be adjustable also made it a lot easier to work on, as it goes low enough that you can easily reach the top of the wall while standing on the ground. After the rain stopped for a few days, I was able to begin actually constructing the wall. The first part of this was attaching a 4x4 post to the tree that I'm using to support the wall. I found the flattest part of the tree so that the anchor points would be as spread out as possible, and I got really lucky that the flattest side of the tree also happened to line up with the flattest part of the ground, which of course makes for a nicer landing. Once the post was attached, I started on the framework for the wall. I used 3 10-foot long 2x4s along the edges and down the middle, and attached the 2 full 4x8 sheets and the half section. Once the frame was started, I attached it to the post so that I could make sure everything was going to line up correctly before going too far. I then went ahead and finished out the framing. My next step was to make this adjustable wall actually adjustable, and I did so by attaching anchor points to the top of the wall to use as a lifting point. This did, however, cause the top of the wall to bow out due to the pressure, so I got another 4x4 post and attached it across the top, and also added a third central anchor point. I then attached a metal bracket with a pulley to the tree and what may be the world's slowest winch to the back of the 4x4 support post. I went with a hand winch instead of an electric one because it is in the middle of my yard with no power, but while working on the wall, since I was raising and lowering it a lot, I took the handle off and used a drill, which was slightly faster. The winch can handle more than enough weight to hold up the wall and myself. However, the wall would wobble back and forth a bit as you move your weight across it, so I added legs for a little extra stability, and they worked great. Now that the wall was structurally done, it was time to drill all of the holes and add the T-nuts. I used a 7/16 inch paddle bit as that was what was suggested, but it was still a bit tight, and I ended up chamfering the holes on the back slightly to get the T-nuts to fit a bit better. Some of the T-nuts I hammered in partially as to not completely annoy my neighbors, and then I used a 3/8 inch bolt from the front to pull them in the rest of the way. I would have liked to get some really nice holes like these, but that would have drastically increased my budget for this project, and I decided to go a cheaper route instead. The holes I did end up getting are made in America and made with 70% recycled material though, so that's cool. I'll leave a link in the description below to these and other things I've used on the wall if you want to check them out yourself. My main concern when ordering these holes was that they're labeled as being for kids and adults, and I thought maybe they were just kids holds that were also being marketed as for adults in order to increase sales. And I thought maybe they'd be like those hard plastic ones you see at a playground. But they're actually pretty good. They have a bit of a rock texture and I find them challenging. I'd say maybe 60% or so of them are this kind of shape, which gives me a good spot to grip as I'm starting, and then as I progress I can flip them to make them more challenging or use them as undercuttings or whatever I need. There are other ones that are shaped more like this, which as a beginner I find these ones fairly difficult. I tried to use them mainly as footholds whenever possible. At this point, as my skills improve or there are specific types of holds I want to practice on, I do plan on slowly investing in some holds that are more typical of what you would see in a gym. If you're interested in making your own wall, there's always the option of making your own wooden holds as well. It's cheaper than buying holds and you can make whatever shape you want. I just decided that that wasn't the right option for me because I know I would want to get each hold shaped just right, and I don't have the patience to make 50 or more really good holds. I might make some at some point, but I didn't want to wait until I had a ton done in order to start climbing. As I've mentioned, I'm a beginner climber, which also means I don't know much about route setting. I looked for examples through Google and didn't have much luck, so I ended up watching YouTube videos for tips and was able to find a couple of examples, and I just kind of tried to match what they did with the holds that I had available to me. A lot of these problems used jugs that were larger than what I have, so I improvised a bit and hoped the routes came out about the same. The goal was to set two V0s, a V1, and a V2. For the landing, I found two black diamond dirt circuit crash pads during a Labor Day sale, and these work well for me as they end up being the same width as my wall. And as I climbed my wall for the first time, I realized these holds are a bit difficult. There are a few jugs that are really nice, but most of them are difficult for me to grab or keep my feet on. And I gave up on trying to climb the specific routes to begin with and just instead focused on getting to the top. I did have 10 or so leftover holes that I didn't use on the routes, so the next day I added them on wherever there seemed to be a large blank area. I also realized the flags I added to mark the routes only work for the handholds. They're too short to look down and see which holds I can use for my feet. I got my climbing shoes at an REI garage sale for like over 50% off, and I thought they fit at the store. They're a bit tight, but I thought they're just like climbing shoe tight. But now I think they might actually be too tight. One shoe feels fine, but the other one, it feels like it makes my toes curl in too much, and the back presses against my heel, and it kind of makes me nervous to fall or land on it. I tried normal sneakers to see if they were better, but they were far too slippery, so I went back to the climbing shoes. And then I remembered I still have an old pair of running shoes that are pretty much falling apart, but I refuse to get rid of. They're very close fitting, they're like minimalist running shoes, and they are ridiculously comfortable. Unfortunately, the new versions of the shoes don't fit the same, but I think these will work for climbing shoes for now until I figure out if my actual climbing shoes just need to be broke in or if I need to get new ones. As I mentioned earlier, I'll leave a list of materials I use in the description below if you want to check anything out for yourself. Leave a comment and let me know if you've ever built a climbing wall yourself or if you have plans to. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to be always adventuring.